بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Today inshallah we'll talk about Surah Al-Muddathir. And I don't like repeating myself every time, but I do enjoy at least making sure that every surah is clear in terms of where it exists in the Quran. Every surah has two dimensions. It exists sequentially in the Quran. I mean, from the beginning till the end, it has a sequence. It exists amongst other surahs that it fits with and it serves a purpose being around. And it also, the second dimension is the chronological timing for it. I mean, when it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and those two dimensions actually are important if you attempt to contemplate or reflect upon any surah in the Quran, to know them. Because if you don't, then you're basically shooting in the dark, because you don't know exactly what was happening when these surahs were revealed. Surah Al-Muddathir is a part of the 29th juz of the Quran. That is a cluster of surahs from Al-Mulk to Al-Mursalat, and it talks about da'wah. And the first four surahs talked about what the four necessities are for someone who's going to perform da'wah: the knowledge, the ethics, the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the behaviors. And that was Al-Mulk, Al-Qalam, Al-Haqq, Al-Ma'arij. And Surah Nuh gave an example of how you can perform da'wah perfectly with every aspect required, and still people don't respond, and that's just a part of what this is going to look like. We can't force people to make choices, and it's not always going to be successful. And Surah Al-Jinn was an example of when da'wah was extremely successful, even though the person maybe wasn't even aware that he was doing it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's more of da'wah with behavior. And we were given a few pointers in terms of what we have to be aware of when we perform da'wah at the end of Surah Al-Jinn. And then Surah Al-Muzammil yesterday in Muddathir, again, the names of the surahs are very revealing to what they're talking about. مَا يَتَزَمَّلْ بِهِ الْإِنسَانِ is what is the piece of clothing that touches the skin. So it's very close. And Dithar is what you wear on top, outside, that people see. And that's exactly what they talk about. Al-Muzammil talks about the things that you need, that you and I need in order for us to be good Muslims or to be able to carry the da'wah. The relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why he talks about Qiyam al-Layl and Quran and Dhikr and Tawakkul and Tabattul and Tasbih. He talks about all these aspects of your relationship with God that is there for you, to serve you. You're doing it, but it's really there to actually strengthen you and offer that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the depth that it requires in order for you to continue on this journey throughout your life. And Surah Al-Muddathir talks about how you're going to carry yourself. I mean, what mentalities are you going to have, and how are you going to present yourself to the society as you perform da'wah? And that's what the surah actually talks about. And it's also one of the really, really early surahs. These two were revealed. They're number either 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. One of them. Muddathir and Muzammil, one of the earliest surahs that were revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And it begins, Ya ayyuhal muddathir. And then we have a number of commands. Qum, we'll talk about it in a second. فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر ولا تمنن تستكثر ولربك فاصبر. You have 7 commands all in a row from him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similar actually to the number of commands that existed in Surah Al-Muzammil, if you recall from yesterday. And these commands, there's something in common between Al-Muzammil and Al-Muddathir. So, Ya ayyuhal muzammilu qum and Ya ayyuhal muddathiru qum. Both of them started with the same thing. Qum, now you can explain it by just getting up. But that's an extremely literal translation of the word. And it doesn't really actually even fit what the surah is teaching. Meaning, is the Prophet ﷺ not allowed to give da'wah sitting down? Does he have to be standing up at all times? Or is it okay for him to do? Or what does qum mean? If it's not going to be the literal understanding or the literal translation of just being up, standing upwards the whole time, then it's a figurative meaning that's much more meaningful, which is to take a stand. Qiyam is either to stand up, or you kind of move the wordings around a little bit, and figuratively becomes to take a stand. In Arabic, the اتخاذ الموقف, as they say. And qiyam, that's what it means. So when he says qum, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying qum, either way, whether you're going to be supporting yourself with your relationship with God, or you're going to be carrying yourself to the society, you're going to need to take a stand. A part of this is going to be for you to take a stand and prepare yourself for a movement forward that has a certain degree of effort that's going to be put forward. And that's what qiyam means. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about salah, he doesn't say salli, he says وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Same root of this word. Establishing it, not just praying it, meaning this is something you're establishing your stand and your direction and who you are. There's more. This is more than just a mechanical movement sequence. This is you actually explaining not only to yourself, but to the world who you are and what you represent. And that's what qiyam means. And that's why, for example, Surah Al-Kahf, when you read the story, وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ إِذْ قَامُوا. And again, did the people of the Kahf, does that mean that they were standing up? I mean, they didn't speak to the king sitting down, it was a problem if they sat down? Or is qamu means that they took a stand? They took a stand and spoke out against what was wrong at the time. And that's what the usage of this word is in the Quran. It's very important and it's very meaningful. And it has a layer, a depth and a dynamic that is worthy of reflection. So qum, that's the first one, meaning you need to take a stand. The first one is qum al-layla, so it was attached to something in terms of prayer. But here it's just qum. You need to take a stand. Being a Muslim means that you will be, to a certain degree, a little bit different than others around you within your vicinity. It's just a part of being a Muslim. Whether you're surrounded by non-Muslims or whether you're surrounded by other Muslims. Being a Muslim and actually holding on to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and dedicating yourself to what He taught subhanahu wa ta'ala and walking down that path means you're always going to be a little bit different. You're always going to be making some decisions, doing certain things that you're going to stand out a bit, even if you don't want to. Even though deep inside you just want to be like everyone else, you just want to walk and you want to kind of blend in and integrate, and that's fine. But a part of that is going to be you taking a stand, because your value system may be different than the value system of people around you, and it's expected of you as a Muslim that you adhere to that value system when it's being challenged and when people are trying to push you away from it or it's being taken away from you. That's the number one, that's the first command. قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ. Our job is to take warnings to others. The Quran is in no way a catalog to tell us where people are going Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's not what the Quran is there to serve. We cannot say with any degree of certainty on any level where people, individuals or groups are going Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's not what the Quran is here for. The Quran is for us to take the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in it and then use it to tell people, look, this is what He's saying, by the way. Beware. Are you following His commands? Are you adhering to His rulings? Beware. He said that if you don't, then this is what's going to come. There's going to be punishment if you don't perform your salah, if you don't say La ilaha illallah. But that does not give us the ability to look at someone who's not saying La ilaha illallah and tell him you're going to Jahannam. That's a different thing. These are two very separate things that are happening. They're very different. To warn someone from the consequences of actions that they are doing or actions that they are not doing is one thing. Telling them where their final destination is a very different thing. You and I don't even know where we're going. I have no idea where I'm going Yawm al-Qiyamah. I pray that inshallah I go in the right direction, but I have no way to know. So for me to actually use the Quran to say, but I know exactly where you're going, is a huge problem. The Quran is not to be used for that purpose ever. And I cannot emphasize this point enough. It's a book for indhar, for us to take the warning. This is what He's saying subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's saying, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ. You take that to someone, beware. This is what He's saying. If you're performing shirk, beware. But if they continue to perform shirk, I can't tell them, okay, then you're going to Jahannam. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. That's completely out of the question. That actually is a degree of disrespect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is scary. Because I have no right, and it's not my place, to tell people where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to put them Yawm al-Qiyamah. That is completely His job. And that's His prerogative and that's His decision, and He'll make that subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did not ask me to be responsible for every human being and where they're going. I'm not a bookkeeper for Him. My job is to take care of me. And then فَأَنذِرْ. My job is to take a stand and فَأَنذِرْ, and to bring the warning to those who are willing to listen to it and at least reminding of it. Number two. Number three, وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ. And your Lord magnify or exalt. As you go through your life as a Muslim, something that should be clear upon you in the way that you live your life is that your worldview of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that of magnification. We don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be similar to any of His creations. We don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be flawed in any form or manner. We don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be performing actions that are questionable or that can be seen as human in nature. We don't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as to have a temper or to get upset or to be sad or to make mistakes. That's not how we see Him. Jalla Jalaluhu, tasabbaha wa taqaddas, wa rabbaka fakabbir. Meaning as you go through life, make it very clear your opinion and your understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And that is literally, and I cannot emphasize, this is very important, one of the main differences between Muslims and followers of other faiths is our understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. We have a very clear definition, we have very clear descriptions, very clear names, we know exactly who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Other faiths have different understandings of that, and that has to be clarified. We have to make sure that that's very clear in the way that we take it forward. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. And your clothing keep pure. An aspect of being a Muslim and taking da'wah to others and having it be apparent on you is also your appearance, is your physical appearance, the way that you look, how you dress. Because a part of being an ambassador for Islam is also carrying those values that will be a part of your garments and what you look like. And it has to be a purity. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, meaning it has to be clean. It has to look, and it has to be, there can't be najasa in it, and it can't be a filth. And it's interesting that this command, I want you to think about these commands as the Prophet ﷺ heard them in the Sahaba. I'm talking the fourth, fifth day of Islam. Yani ﷺ saw Jibreel, ran down the mountain, 2-3 days, and then Noon wal Qalam, and then Ya ayyuhal muzammil, and then Ya ayyuhal muddathir. So the Prophet ﷺ is hearing these commands very early in his prophecy. And as he's explaining this to Khadija radiallahu anha and Ali and Abu Bakr, these early Sahaba, these were very meaningful commands they were hearing. They were very, imagine that you didn't have this whole Quran. It wasn't 604 pages. You only had maybe one surah. You had Iqra bismi rabbik, the first 5 verses, that's it. You had maybe Surah Al-Fatiha, maybe the first page of Surah Al-Muzammil, maybe the first 16 verses of Surah Al-Qalam, and that's it. Very few verses you have to contemplate and learn from. And then Ya ayyuhal muddathir, and it's just one command after the other. It's just handing out qum فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر. As a Muslim, you're hearing this. I need to take a stand. My job is to actually perform this da'wah and to warn and to give people information. My job is to be an ambassador of God, meaning showing that my understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He is the exalted, who al-kabir jalla jalaluhu. He is not flawed as others will look at Him. A part of that is وثيابك فطهر. I am commanded to dress well, to go and present myself, to be presentable when I speak to others. And then of course all of this is repeated many, many times in the Quran later. Ya bani Adam, khudhu zinatakum inda kulli masjid. Make sure that you dress in the best of clothing when you go to a masjid. Meaning the same concepts are later on explained in other verses. But this was very meaningful to the Sahaba. It is not about, to be spiritually rich doesn't mean that you have to look, that you have to be wearing clothing that is dirty and ripped apart. And no. Being spiritually rich means that you're also going to be presentable physically. You're dressed well. You're dressed in pure clothing. That's tahir. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجِزَ فَهْجُرْ. And all that which is impure, all that is seen as a low part of life, all behaviors, gossip and backstabbing and betrayal, وَالرُّجِزَ, everything that human beings see as morally impure. So ثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ, you're taking away the physically impure. You're dressed in something that is tahir physically. But وَالرُّجِزْ is basically what is morally impure. And we all know that just by the simple compass of being a human being. You don't really need a deen to tell you that being honest is the right thing, and lying is definitely something that is impure morally or spiritually. وَالرُّجِزَ فَهْجُرْ, and everything that is morally compromising, everything that is morally impure, فَهْجُرْ, you leave it and do not be a part of it. As a Muslim who's carrying the deen, you can't. You can't sit and speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and call people to the deen, and then in your daily behaviors, in your daily interactions, we're lying, or we're taking something that's haram, we're not honest, or we're not clear, or we're not trustworthy, or we will try and hustle people. It's not going to work. This actually goes against everything that Islam is built upon. And one of the number one repellents of Islam to people is that they run into somebody who's always in the first line. This is something I've heard so many times in life. It's a stereotype that I'm tired of listening to, and I don't even like admitting that it's a part of the problem. That they'll run into someone who was the first line, first line, long, and then when I actually had to deal with him, he had a shop where I had to, he was performing some type of service. This person, I couldn't, it didn't go well. Nothing worked. He ripped me off, he mistreated me. It's the number one repellent. People stop coming to masajid because of it. Is that correct? Should they do that? Of course not. That's wrong. You never judge Islam based on the behavior of a Muslim, obviously. But that's not the reality, is it? That's not the reality. The reality is people judge a way of thought based on those who claim to follow it. People will judge an ideology based on the people who claim to follow it. They'll run into you and you claim to be Muslim. They're going to judge Islam through you. 100%. It's not even something that's debatable. That's what's going to happen. They're going to judge just like, because we do the same thing, by the way. We do the same thing. How many, I hear a lot of people come to me, oh look, this qawm, they worship cows, and this qawm worship. But what do you actually know about their deen? Did you ever study it? Did you ever actually take a book and study the deen in detail to understand what their theology is based on? No, you just took a behavior and then you generalized it, which we all do that. So if we're doing that, maybe we should be okay with others doing that. And if they're going to do that, then maybe we should make sure that we're doing this right. Maybe وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِرْ has to be of importance. Maybe وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ has to be extremely important as well. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ, all it took was one mistake. All he had to do was make one mistake, and that would have been the end of this whole story. This whole place wouldn't have to be here. I wouldn't have to be sitting here. It would end immediately. But he didn't, ﷺ. He carried himself, he held himself to a certain standard all his life, ﷺ. He had to. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. People were waiting for it. Oh, they were waiting for it. وَإِن يَكَادُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُزْلِقُونَكَ بِأَبْصَارِهِمْ لَمَّا سَمِعُوا الذِّكْرِ. They would stare at him in such envy and in such hatred, hoping he would just slip up once. They're trying to force it with their envious eyesight. Like this is the figure of speech in the ayah, Surah Al-Qalam. They're staring at him, trying to get him to make a mistake. Because they can't find any other way. He will not make a mistake. So they couldn't find it. وَيَقُولُونَ إِنَّهُ لَمَجْنُونَ. Because that's not really a flaw, is it? It's not an ethical problem to have an issue of sanity. So that's the best they could do. But the reason that he did this, alayhi salatu wasalam, because of the clarity of these verses at the beginning of Surah Al-Muddathir. وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. And when you give, you don't give expecting for anyone to give you something back. This is such an important ayah, not just for the concept of for the theme of the surah or the purpose of the surah itself, but for everything in life. You can just take it and just run with it for the rest of your existence. When you do something that is helpful for someone else, do not do it with the expectation that someone's going to do something for you in return. تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. You do it hoping that they give you back something. When you do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for someone else, do it and walk away. Forget about it. Try to forget about it. Try to forget that you ever did it. Try whenever you run into that person, you don't remember that you did something good for them. Because that's how you ensure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the ajr. We do the opposite. Unfortunately, most human beings will never forget a good deed they did for someone else. But they'll forget millions of good deeds done towards them. And they'll forget the person that has a fadl upon them all their lives. And a Muslim does the opposite. The Prophet ﷺ was the manifestation of the opposite of that. ﷺ, if he did something good for you, that was the end of it. He never brought it up again. He never talked about it. He walked away, ﷺ. And if you did something good for him, every time he saw you, he reminded you. Jazakallah khair. The day that you gave me this, the day that you stood by me in that way, and he would speak about it on the minbar if you ever did a good deed for him, alayhi salatu wasalam. Because he understood this verse early on. وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. Do your good deed and then walk away. Just walk away. Why? Who did you do it for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did he see you? Yes, he saw me. Then what do you need? Why are you hanging around? What do you want? Do you want your reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes, I do. Then why are you standing waiting? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for a word of praise? Well, that's a reward as well. The moment you start taking rewards from others, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is less interested in rewarding you. Because he wants to see that you're doing it sincerely. وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ. And the final one, وَلِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ. And show perseverance for the sake of Allah on this very difficult and bumpy road. Very difficult to take a stand and to qum and to take this da'wah to those around you, those who want to hear it and those who don't. فَأَنذِرْ. And throughout this whole time to show us a very certain understanding of who God is, exalted subhanahu wa ta'ala, that doesn't change. وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ. And keep your clothing pure. Make sure that you're presentable. And stay away وَالرَّجُزَ فَهْجُرْ from all moral impurities. And make sure وَلَا تَمْنُن تَسْتَكْثِرْ that whenever you do something, you're not waiting for anything in return. You do it for the sake of Allah and you walk away. There's a known story that one of the Salihin would come and give someone else a sadaqah. So he would tell him, خُذْ لَا لَكْ. Take it, but it's not for you. It's for Allah. So he would say, the other person is also a salih, laykin قال هات لا منك. Give it to me, it's not also from you, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's a level of understanding that maybe is a little bit beyond. And if you can do all these things, وَلِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ, then make sure you can persevere on that road. Because this road is difficult. It's going to throw you hurdles and obstacles a lot. So the perseverance part is going to be needed. And if you notice from yesterday, twice, in Surah Al-Muzammil, he said, وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ. And then in Surah Al-Muddathir, he said, وَلِرَبِّكَ فَاصْبِرْ. Al-sabr is an integral part of being a Muslim. Actually, the scholars say it's half of the deen. You can only exist as a Muslim, by the way. You can only exist in one of two states. Either you're in a state of things going well, so you're a shakir, or you're in a state of things not going well, so you're a sabir. And there's no third state. It's either this or it's that. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continued, fasbir. You have to show perseverance. You have to, it's going to be difficult. Walking this path is going to be difficult. Hold on. The surah continues, and it gives us an example of a problem, of a behavioral problem, that if we're going to take this da'wah, we cannot have. And it tells the story of Al-Walid ibn Mughira, when he heard the Quran, and they came to him saying, what is this? What do we say to people about the Quran? No one, we tell them poetry, they say it's not poetry. We tell them it's something of kahana, they don't accept that as well. Whatever we're telling them, they're not accepting. What do we say to people? And, Ya Walid, figure this out for us. We don't know what to call the Quran, and we're losing this battle. People are becoming more and more interested to hear what he's saying, alayhi salatu wasalam, because of the beauty of what's being said and the depth of it. So Al-Walid listened to it, and after he finished, he came back and he said, إِنَّهُ لَمُثْمِرٌ أَعْلَاهُ مُغْدِقٌ أَسْفَلَهُ إِنَّهُ لَا يَعْلُو وَلَا يُعْلَى عَلَيْهِ. And he started saying beautiful things about the Quran. It's amazing. It is fruitful on top, and it's deep on the bottom, and it's above everything I've ever heard. Nothing's ever above it as far as I'm concerned. So they're listening to him. And like, what are you going to leave your deen? Because of this, we told you to go tell us how to poke a hole at it, not to tell us that it's amazing. We already know that it's amazing. Tell us what to say. And then the Quran actually explains to us. It's extremely visual verses. ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا وَمَهَّدتُّ لَهُ تَمْهِيدًا ثُمَّ يَطْمَعُ أَنْ أَزِيدَ كَلَّا إِنَّهُ كَانَ لِآيَاتِنَا عَنِيدًا. The verses say, leave me, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Leave me, and the one who I created alone, the one who's refusing to listen to this, the one that I gave wealth and I gave children to and I gave them status, and they still want more. But unfortunately, I'm not going to give them anymore because they are showing, they're being anid. Anid, what that means is that it's clear to you what is right, but because of some self-interest, you're not going to do it. That's the problem with Walid ibn Mughira. And that's the problem that this surah is telling us. You have to be very aware of falling into that problem, which is where you see what is right, you acknowledge that this here is right and what I'm doing is wrong, but because it's difficult to let go of your ego, it's difficult to actually admit that you made a mistake, it's difficult maybe to do something that someone else did it before you and you don't really like them that much, so for some self-interest reason, some egocentric reason, you refuse it. You refuse it. And if you think about your life, you will find many times, we do this a lot as human beings, we do this a lot. Hopefully we're not doing it in instances where it really matters, where it's connected to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, but we do it nonetheless. How many times have you defended your opinion knowing that you're wrong? How many times have you just know how to defend it better? You're just better with your words, you know how to do stuff like this. So you just defend it because you don't want to seem wrong, because it's not that important and you don't want someone else to be better than you. And Al-Walid, that's what he did. سَأُرْهِقُهُ صَعُودًا. He'll be punished for this. إِنَّهُ فَكَّرَ وَقَدَّرَ فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. He thought, and he weighed things out, and he contemplated, and he reflected. May he be punished for how he did that. And then may he be punished again for what he did, because he wasn't doing it with the right intention. He wasn't doing it looking for al-haq. He was trying to find a way to twist things. ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَسَرَ. So he was looking, and then he frowned, and then he scolded. The surah is explaining to us his not just his thought process, but even the facial expressions that are coming with it. ثُمَّ نَظَرَ ثُمَّ عَبَسَ وَبَسَرَ ثُمَّ أَدْبَرَ. And then he turned his back, وَاسْتَكْبَرَ, and he filled his heart with vanity and arrogance. فَقَالَ إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ يُؤْثَرُ. He came up with the right teeth. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to call it a certain type of wizardry, or a certain type of sihr, magic that he took from someone else, not even original. It's not even something that he made up. He just inherited this magic from someone else, and that's why these words seem to affect people, because they're basically, there's magic within them, and that's what happened. And that because they couldn't find anything else to say about him, alayhi salatu wasalam. They can't go after the actual madmoon. They can't go after the actual content of what he's saying, so they're going to find some other way to tarnish it by making it sound unoriginal, or giving it some mystic some mystic effect that we can't understand. It's magic, and that's why you need to protect yourself. That's why Tufayl ibn Amr, when he entered Mecca, he shoved cotton in his ears because he was told that Muhammad, yasharuk, he'll say these words, and these words have an effect on you. It's magic, and it'll ruin your life. So he shoved cotton in his ears, and then as he's walking around the Kaaba, he's like, what am I doing? Cotton in my ears? He's talking to Ya Tufayl, are you insane? What are you doing? Who told you this? And he took out the cotton, like, why am I doing this? Speak. Words that are magic, speak, Ya Muhammad. Let me hear what you have to say. When he listened to him, and he accepted. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But it wasn't magic, and he knew it wasn't magic. In هذا إلا قول البشر. It's just the wording of another human being. سأصليه سقر. He will find a place in Jahannam called Saqar. And then you find in the verse, I'm not going to finish Surah Al-Muddathir today. And then you find in the surah, and Surah Al-Muddathir just talks about behavioral traits, things that we have to do, how we're going to carry ourselves, the commands. We can't be like Al-Walid al-Mughira. We can't be people who refuse al-haq when we see it. We can't. We can't twist facts just so that it serves our interest. We can't do that. And then he says, عَلَيْهَا تِسْعَةَ عَشَرٍ. He talks subhanahu wa ta'ala about a place in Jahannam called Saqar. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا سَقَرْ لَا تُبْقِي وَلَا تَذَرْ لَوَّاحَةٌ لِلْبَشَرِ عَلَيْهَا تِسْعَةَ عَشَرٍ. And then the surah stopped coming. That's where it ended for a while. And the Prophet ﷺ did not receive any revelation for a little bit. The last word was عَلَيْهَا تِسْعَةَ عَشَرٍ. Upon it are 19. 19. And it just ended there. And the reason that's happened is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to prove to the Muslims that the Jahiliyyah way of thought is something that we need to get rid of. They spent the next month mocking that number, joking about it. 19 what? 19 donkeys? 19 what? Devils? 19 what? They're joking about it. Was it malaika? Okay, 19. One of the people of Quraysh said, okay, I can take care of at least 10. If you guys can take care of 9, we should be okay. And they would mock it, and they would laugh about it. And they would ask, why 19? Why not 20? Isn't it a more round number? It makes more sense. And the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba, didn't know because the Quran stopped there. They weren't going to speak out against something they didn't know. They were waiting. And it took a month until the next ayat, which is almost a half a page. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا أَصْحَابَ النَّارِ. It's a long one. But it comes and explains a flaw, a fundamental flaw in the Jahiliyyah way of thought that as Muslims we can't do anymore. And unfortunately, we still do. What time is Adnan today? 16. Okay, good. I'll quickly try and bring it forward. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا أَصْحَابَ النَّارِ إِلَّا مَلَائِكَةً وَمَا جَعَلْنَا عِدَّتَهُمْ إِلَّا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. We only made that number. They're malaika. First of all, to answer the question, they're malaika. And the number 19 was just there as a fitna. Just there to show you how people are going to respond to it. How they're going to leave the content. How they're not going to talk about قُمْ فَأَنذِرْ وَرَبَّكَ فَكَبِّرْ وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ وَلَا تَمْنُنْ. All these beautiful commands of high ethics and proper behavior and presenting yourself in a way that is actually beautiful regardless of whether you're religious or not. And they're going to focus on the number. It's 19. Why is it 19? Could it be something else? ليستيقن الذين أوتوا الكتاب ويزداد الذين آمنوا إيمانا ولا يرتاب الذين أوتوا الكتاب والمؤمنون. But the believers will only strengthen their iman. It doesn't matter because they know this is not the focus. That they know that the Quran isn't. The Quran is not here so we can talk about the miracles of number 19, or the marvelouses of number 7, or how number 314 is a big deal, or number 70. If you follow it, you'll find it all. That's not why this book is here. The fact that we're spending time actually talking about this and thinking about this is distracting us from what He actually taught us to do, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that way of thought, that superficial approach to the world and superficial approach to teachings and to text is something that we can't afford to have anymore. And that's why that verse, it was a setup. عَلَيْهَا تِسْعَةَ عَشَرٍ. Leave it. Let's see how they'll respond to it. The mu'mins only increased their iman. The believers focused on the actual commands, and the disbelievers played around with the fact that it's a number. And why is a number like this? And could it be something else? The same thing. You probably know exactly what I'm going to tell you. In Surah Al-Kahf, He says the same thing, subhanahu wa ta'ala. سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم ويقولون خمسة وسادسهم كلبهم رجما بالغيب يقولون سبعة وثامنهم كلبهم. What does it matter? If there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, what does it matter? How does that make a difference in the story of Ahl al-Kahf? Whether it's 3 or 4 or 5, what difference does it make? Tell me. Nothing. But it's easy to get distracted by these little details. It's easier. When you have an exam and you have to study, it's easier to take care of your room first. Move all the couches and make sure everything is put in order and vacuum 5 or 6 times. But you have an exam in 3 days, you should be reading. But no, I'm going to continue to take and go buy a few pens and pencils and get everything ready because it's nicer to be distracted by these things that don't matter than actually deal with what's right in front of you. I'll end with that. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala